I want to answer a question that I haven't been asked, but that I may be asked. I want to anticipate it. So, Eris sometimes tells me, like, humans aren't reasonable. And he'll tell me this when, like, I'll do something, and then when I'm asked to explain why I did it, I'll give, like, a reasonable explanation. And then Eris will tell me, no, that's probably not what happened in your mind, because the human brain isn't reasonable. Well, tell me this, Eris. If you're telling me that the human brain isn't capable of reason, then how is it that I came up with this reasonable rationalization after the fact? After all, you say that we are our brains. You say that we are our voices. That we are just the sum of our voices. So if my voices aren't capable of producing reason, then how did I produce reason after the fact? Oh, you think you're clever, huh? No, it's actually very good. It's a good understanding of a number of things. And there are, maybe I haven't been clear. Number one, those reasonable explanations that you give after the fact, I may have focused on the fact that I didn't think that was the process that you followed, and we'll talk about how that could, although you came up with this idea after the fact, why I insist that that's not the process that happened, and what I mean by the brain isn't reasonable. But the first thing to say is, your reasonable rationalization isn't. It may have sounded good, it may sound good enough for me to even refer to it as this reasonable thing in order to tell you that is not what happened. But if I looked at your actual explanation, I'd probably see that more than half of the time, that although it sings, it doesn't hold water. It doesn't, one thing doesn't lead to the next, and also there's just a bunch of untrue things in this reasonable explanation. Okay, so the difference between the explanation you give me after the fact and the actual explanation for the mechanisms that happened to lead to the action. Neil, come here, I want to focus. Neil, come here. Is that one of them does sound better. The one that comes in after the fact does sing. Couche, 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 couche. And then sometimes it even has a chance of actually making some sense. So if your brain was able to produce that, then why do I say that the brain can't produce that? Well, okay, so the brain can produce something resembling reason. Every great idea, every great philosophy that's been done, every great explanation of a thing has been made from the human brain. But it took time, and it was the human brain responding to a whole lot of information and considering a whole lot of, or being open to a whole lot of possibilities, reacting to, having the time to react to different possibilities. None of that happens before an initial behavior. Neil, stay here. The brain tries to be economical with its energy. And so most of the initial processes that produce just our daily thoughts and behavior, or even the important stuff, most of that just activates sort of the bare minimum voices, and they're usually not well adapted to the questions that we're asking, not in this environment. So we get a lot of we deliver bad behaviors, and we get a lot of bad answers. Then someone asks us, hey, why'd you do that? Oh, now the brain's like, okay, can you wake up the big guys? Apparently we need to explain ourselves here. And I didn't keep any records of the stupid processes that just got triggered and ran for the initial behavior. But now we have to explain the behavior. So let's get some more guys involved. Hey, that sounds good. That sounds like, if I was a reasonable person, that is why I would do that, I think. That sounds good. Send it. Okay, so my answer is two parts. One, I maintain that you're not really capable of reason, as shown by how often even the things that you think are reasonable are not. And two, when I say that you're not capable of reason, I don't mean that no thing that you can say can ever be aligned with a reasonable thing. I say that your default state is reliance on unreliable mechanisms. No, that is your only state. It's reliance on your mechanisms, and a lot of them are unreliable, especially those initial ones, the quick ones. And then when we start to approach reason, when we start to come up with something that not just sounds, but that actually resembles a reasonable thing, that's because we have let all these really bad mechanisms react to a lot of good information. And we have some good mechanisms that get a little bit more involved when they're triggered by being challenged or by being just a scientist and having that value system. So then you got these better mechanisms, these meta representations that are looking at these connections and evaluating the bad mechanisms. And then, we still don't have any guarantees, but the more good information, the more time and reactions, the more interactions with other people where there are these error checking mechanisms. Okay, well now, yes, a human being can produce something that actually is quite close to truth. But that's because it compensated for the bad mechanisms. And when you justify your behavior, you don't compensate for the bad mechanisms. You just make something up and justify, and it sounds reasonable, and often it isn't. But if it is, it's because you called in those guys. Or my challenge to you, activated voices that were not active in your initial thing. So a very simple example of this to finish, could have given you an example earlier, I guess. Very simple example to finish is you look at two applications with two different names. One is a name of your nationality, of your country, and assuming that you are in your nationality and country, or it is just the majority nationality country, or whatever, I don't know. And then you're looking at another one that represents a minority. Now, your brain is already looking at the good qualities here, looking at the bad qualities here, focusing on, okay? You come up with the judgment, you choose the majority person. Okay, wonderful. Someone says, hey, why'd you choose the majority person? Hope it isn't because they're the majority. Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, no, it isn't at all. And by the way, because this isn't intentional. It's not like you go, oh, shit. Okay, guys. Let's come up with some bullshit reason. No. You go, oh, why'd I do it? Well, look at these good things. That's really cool. That's really cool. And that's really cool. And look, I don't know, second in his class. I don't know, why would we settle for second when this guy has 3 years of experience here, and so you compare the good things to the bad things, and it sounds reasonable. It isn't reasonable, because then you go, okay, yeah, but he's got 4 years of experience. Yeah, but he did this prep. Yeah, but he didn't do well at it. And this guy was doing the actual job. So it wasn't reasonable, whatever you did. But you better dressed up. Not intentionally. Sorry. So I really shouldn't use vocabulary. Or you shouldn't use language like that. But the actual mechanism was just a pure in-group, out-group. And you didn't say, oh, majority, minority, eh? You didn't say that. What you did was, the in-group bias is why you notice some great things about your in-group member. Something that may not have been clear in this part, or maybe I'm just putting this at the end. So in-group, out-group voice is triggered by the sight of the two names. This is, again, voices do not influence us. We are voices. So in this split second, this voice activates, which then triggers two things at the same time. One, a validation of the in-group candidate and a rejection of the out-group candidate. Now, that's just one vote. But hey, usually you're looking through applications, you need an answer. As soon as there's a vote, okay, great, adjudicated. Well, I don't know whether that works, but as usual. So one thing validates the person. All right, good. Okay, so now you're saying, I want this person. Second thing it does is, although it's already voted for validation, it goes ahead and, you go ahead and you look at everything, right? So the brain looks at everything. And in addition to validating the person, the in-group, out-group voice also affects the perception, which affects which other voices are triggered by the images of the CVs, okay? So you're looking at the CV, all these voices are looking at the CV. In-group, out-group voice has triggered certain validation and also is influencing the image that is received by other voices, such that the other voices are engaging with the good qualities of the in-group person's CV. And then it's doing the opposite for the out-group person. So just in case that wasn't clear, let's do it for the out-group person. So you're looking at the out-group person, you see the name, Jorge, okay? That's gonna trigger a rejection vote. That's one rejection vote, but hey, the brain doesn't wait for everybody to vote. And then not only does it do that, it also is gonna, it now is involved in the other voice's perception of the CV, right? So it votes, hey guys, let's reject this one. I mean, look at these bad things, okay? So then the other voices are like, all right, cool, seems good with me. Then you're asked, hey, why'd you like this person? The in-group, out-group voice goes like this. You guys didn't hear it from me. And then one of the other voices are like, oh, I think it was because Didn't we see that, I don't know, that he was second in his class, or that he didn't do that training program? We saw that, right? Yeah, that was, yeah, okay, great. That's why we didn't validate. So I think that's a pretty cool example, huh? All right, good. And why? You notice some not great things about the out-group member. So now you have to justify. You're not going to say, hey, I was only looking at the good things here because in-group. You can't even know that. You don't know that. You have no idea. There's no trace of that cap. This is all happening like this, right? Person asks you, oh, why? Immediately there's an image of this one cool thing that you read. So you go, well, that's a valuable thing. Look at my reasoning. Look how much that sings. That's a good thing. Oh, and why didn't you like the other guy? Well, it's not that I didn't like him, but image of what kind of shaped what didn't sing. But look at that. And this image came after the image of the name, and the image of the name doesn't come back to you when now you're answering the question. So you're convinced, oh no, look at that bad thing. There you go. Sometimes, so we are not reasonable. But sometimes we can get closer to something that would look reasonable. But often when something looks reasonable, that doesn't mean that it is. It's just that it sings. And your initial mechanism was definitely not following that process that you were then forced to come up with after the spot. And you're not aware of any of this. There you go. And I'm not either when I do it. Please put in the comments if you want to film these things for me, I don't got anybody here. You and your friends put a little scene together. Just remember, there is no character playing the self, okay? It's much like in the film Inside Out, right? In the animation, okay? So inside the mind, there are only these voices. In Inside Out, it was just these emotions. But no, we're also talking about interpretive mechanisms, memory mechanisms, everything, okay? So perception, everything. So yeah, act it out with your friends. Show who understands. Help other people. Come on, you guys are going to have so much fun. Put a comment. My email address is just my name.